get nothing, this world's too much, I swallowed all I could.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Trade Talk. I'm your host, Niko. This is episode 37, and I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy out there, and you've been able to quarantine in some, some form of quarantining if you are still deemed essential and have to work, or, I hope that your family is doing well and everything's all good during these trying times. This is a pretty messed up period of time right now, and we'll see this through. So try to keep positive out there, and I hope that if you are a listener of this show, I'm able to distract you or keep you entertained somewhat during this period of time as well. So thanks for listening, as always. To anybody who has checked out this show, please let me know what you think. Your comments are appreciated, as always. Okay, so today I read a bunch of manga this past week that I'm going to talk about today. And so it's like an all manga episode. I tried out a bunch of new series and took advantage of the fact that I knew I was going to have some time off. So I picked up a bunch of manga volumes of things to try out, and kind of also constructed my manga section in my comic room. I always kind of had like about a shelf and a half worth of like manga, but at this point, with a few more volumes that I ended up picking up of things, I basically just made these two kind of singular, smaller bookshelves, all manga at this point. So I'm looking to take some more time and delve into some of these series that I've talked about today and the subsequent volumes. So don't be surprised if you hear me talking about manga a lot more lately, depending if I continue to read these. At least at this point in time, it's sometimes I feel like reading something else. I don't really ever try to set out to be like, okay, I'm going to read all of these, and that's all I'm reading. If something else strikes my fancy, like I try to be like a mood reader as much as possible when it comes to what I'm reading, to kind of switch it up as well a little bit. But you never know. I quite enjoyed reading a lot of these, so I could continue and reading them and read the rest of the series that I'm talking about today. So we'll see what happens. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into it. The first up is going to be a volume. The only volume here that isn't the first volume of something. It's an ongoing one that I've talked about on the show before. The last time I read the first 4 volumes of it and got caught up on this, and volume 5 just came out a few weeks ago, and that's Witch Hat Atelier. Is it Atelier or Atelier? I don't know how to say that word, to be honest with you. I think it's Atelier, but this is published by Kodansha Comics, art and writing by Komomi Shirahama. And I know this artist apparently has also done variant covers for Marvel titles, so she's kind of broken through to like the American market, I guess a little bit in that sense as well, because you don't see too many people. Certain manga artists have done things for Marvel in the past, sure. But apparently which I don't think I've ever seen, or if I've seen, I just didn't recognize that it was that artist at that time because I wasn't reading this book. So apparently she's done variant covers for a bunch of things for Marvel in the past, and I love this series. I talked about it when I read I burned through the first 4 volumes during my vacation. Actually, is when I had read them. And I'm still quite enjoying it with volume 5. Basically, I won't go too much into it at this point because, like I said, during my late tapes, I guess a month or so ago, when I was getting caught up and recording episodes on all the things that I had been reading and hadn't talked about on the show as of yet, I had briefly mentioned. Not briefly, I kind of did a deep dive into the first 4 volumes, what I liked about them. So in volume 5, this is basically just tying up the loose ends that were left at the end of volume 4 when the students are doing their doing some testing, like competition. Basically, there was a new character that we were introduced to. What's his name? Iuni. I don't know how to say his name. It's Euini. I don't know how you pronounce it. Iuni. Basically, he got turned into the brim cap witches showed up, which are like the evil bad guys in this. Essentially, like they're the ones that practice dark magic. They showed up and they turned him. They drew a seal on him, like a tattoo. Once that goes on, you're like consumed by like the darkness, and he got transformed into like a wolf, a scale wolf. And he turned all like evil and bad and stuff, and basically now he was stuck in that form at the end of the last volume, and then the teachers were incapacitated, and it was up to the students as the Brim Hats were attacking them in this temple place that they kind of bombarded them during the testing. It was up to them to basically find a way out. So in this volume, that kind of resolves. There's their master, the apprentice's master, he basically throws down with one of the Brimcap guys. We actually got probably the most information about these Brimcap witches in this volume. Like, you actually got the names of two of them. The one that's been following along, Coco, the main character, the one that was the newest witch to this group, Atelier, and who I guess is essentially the main protagonist in this book. She, you finally find out like the guy with the he's got like these like bead things that droop down from his hat of the Brimcap people. You find out his name. You find out the name of another one that was showed up in the last volume that was kind of trying to fuck with them inside of this place that they were stuck, that they were doing their test. And you find out that he was like a half man, half like cat kind of. He looks like a cat in the face, kind of like a. And I guess because of the darkness, like the dark magic kind of consumes them, or however they become part of the Brimcaps at that point. Like, he was like half man, half beast as a result of it. And essentially, like even with the kid, like I mentioned, the other witch, he turned into like a wolf. So like you were kind of taken aback by that, because you finally saw the face of one of these actual witches, and then he turned out to be like a half man, half animal type thing, right? So you got that, you got his name, you got the other guy's name. So you actually probably found out the most about these characters, since they've been kind of lurking in the shadows up to this point in this volume, right? And then, and then the girls all came together, and they all kind of learned more about themselves and them as witches and them as individuals, and kind of through the last couple volumes you've been learning about each one of them. I think the Tetia, or Teshia, or however you say her name, she you probably learned the most about her past, I guess, in this one, because they've been touching on each one of them, I think, within the last couple of volumes. Like, you've gotten a little bit of time and background on each of their their ways that they believe in magic, and them as individuals, and how they perceive stuff, and how they the type of witches that they want to be, right, and what's important to them, like their morals and stuff like that. And so you learn about all of the girls in this, and then Master Quifrey kind of threw down with that Beast Man guy who was fucking with them, and then by the end of this, they kind of temporarily, made them have to run off those Brim Hat guys, and then the High Council, I forgot what their name is, but essentially like the government or something of witches, like basically. I'm just looking for their name right now. So by the end of this, they have to go to like the Great Hall. It's the center of all like witch society. And basically like the Magic Council, essentially, like all these guys basically have to take orders from these individuals. They showed up at the end, and they had said, okay, you guys are gonna have to come with us, because there's a lot of shit that basically just had gone down, maybe bending of the rules or stuff that had gone awry, and the fact that there's been dark magic being cast and a bunch of shit. So they're gonna be probably brought up on a lot of these things that have just occurred in the last couple of volumes now, moving into the next one. So yeah, it's very interesting still. I liked it a lot. The art is just wonderful still. I really love it, like the style of this artist's art. Very detailed yet, like, I don't know, like elegant. Like it's not clean lined at all, but it's not. I don't know. It's hard to describe just because there's a lot of painstakingly like detailed scenes that are drawn in this. The way you can tell that they were drawn, but then in the same sense, it looks so like nicely drawn. Like it doesn't look rough but there's a lot of lines put on the page. Like it's not simple. It's not a simple clean line style, like a very sparse amount of lines that are put in onto the page. But it also doesn't look like, you know what I mean, like obsessive. It's just, I don't know. It's just very well done. I really like it. I think that the artist is fantastic. And the world is interesting, and the characters are developing, and I can't wait till the next volume. So that's Witch Hat Atelier. I really look forward to this whenever it comes out. Unfortunately, it doesn't come out fast enough. I feel I said the next volume's not coming until this summer. It's only coming out, I think, like every few months now. So I really wish it came out on a faster schedule. I don't know if they just aren't translating them fast enough, or maybe it's just because the artists put so much work into this. Maybe the schedule doesn't come out as often as some other mangas, right? Like a shonen one or something. But yeah, really like it still. So definitely check it out if you've yet to do so. Next up, we got Giganto Maxia. This is a single volume manga, so for all you guys that are maybe afraid to try out mangas, because there's a lot of like series, more specifically a lot of like the Shonen Jump series that have gone on for like 80 fucking volumes, and they're like these big undertakings that if you're afraid, if I start reading that in collected volumes, then I'm gonna have to buy like 80 volumes of this series. It's gonna take me forever to read it. Actually, a few the ones I'm talking about today are smaller series. So yeah, I actually just realized. So definitely check these out, because there's no excuse if that's the case. Like this one's a single volume one, written and drawn by the creator of Berserk, which I've talked about on the show before, Kentaro Miura. As far as I know, I think, because there was a delay on the last volume of Berserk that came to print, I think he just stopped doing the manga for a short period of time, and then during that period, he actually brought this out. So he went off it, I guess, and did almost like a palette cleanser, like tried to, like, I guess, draw or write something different. Maybe he just felt uninspired or didn't want to do Berserk after doing it for so long. I'm not sure the reasoning behind it, but from what I know, when he wasn't doing Berserk for a period of time, he went off and did this, and then he went back, I guess, and did some more chapters of Berserk, and then that was the reason why the newest volume had come out not too long ago, maybe this past year or so. So here's hoping he's able to wrap that up at some point. Although I will say, for a single volume of a manga, this was great. I really enjoyed this, and my only complaints about this, which I'll just mention before I gush about how much I loved it, is one, it's somewhat even smaller than a normal size manga, like scaled manga. Like what they get shown, it's just a little bit smaller, it looks like, but it's basically just the size of like your regular kind of shonen manga size, not like a Viz signature line manga, which is a little bit bigger scale, or like one of these more deluxe like hardcover mangas that they have coming out. It's you know, like what a normal small manga volume looks like. And then, but that's the thing. This art in this, oh man, this needs its own hardcover, like oversized hardcover, like they're doing with the Berserk editions, Dark Horse right now. This is printed by Dark Horse. Yeah, this needs a bigger scaled. The art is wonderful in this. It's so fucking good. Again, now this is like the level of detail that are put into these pages. This does look on the verge of obsessive, like the number of lines. Like I don't know too much about the artist, you know, the creator here. I don't know if he has like a lot of assistants, because some of these mangakas they do, but But yeah, as I'm reading through Berserk for the first time, the new hardcover editions Dark Horse has been putting out in the oversized editions, even at that point, it's still like, 20 imprint volumes earlier than the point in time that he had drawn the most recent stuff. So I'm guessing like along that time, he became a much better artist. So the stuff that's presented to me in this looks even better than what I've seen so far in Berserk. So, and this being one of the more recent things he worked on, I mean, or just because he was more invigorated or inspired to draw the pages in this just looked so fucking great, man. This was awesome. So yeah, that's my only complaint, I think, is that they should have made this like more of an oversized art book. Like, I get it, for a single volume manga they brought out, sure, this is probably the best way you want to present it in, right, for people to pick it up, but they should definitely consider recollecting this in a bigger form, because this just looked wonderful. The art is so good, and that's just a complaint, because I wish it was even presented even better, right? And as much as my other complaint is, as much as I love this one volume, again, this is like a complaint that's not really a negative. It's just because of how good this was, is that I wish there was more of this. Like, don't get me wrong, I want him to go back and finish Berserk, but the stuff that he had set up in this world seemed a lot of fun, and I would definitely take more of this if there was. So, I'm okay though with the fact that it's just like a single volume as well. Like, you don't really need anything else. Like, you can pick this up, sample this, enjoy yourself, read this, and then move on, right? So, and sometimes you don't need more than a couple of volumes of something, but people overdo it, and yeah, this was just like and so this story basically follows a guy that used to be like a slave, like basically like a ring fighter, like, for people's amusement. Like, he was a guy that they would, you see like these things in battle arenas, like back in the day, like in Rome and shit, where they would throw them in, and they would have to fight to the death and fight for their own survival and kill people. So this dude, Delos, is like a gladiator essentially. So he goes on like this adventure, this journey with this person, this Prom is her name, but she uses the word Prom, or speaks to herself in the third person quite a bit in this. So if you see that word being thrown around, that is what she is technically, that's her name, but she's like a spirit, like a mystic spirit of some sort. She has like healing powers, she has like magical powers, but she like accompanies him, like, and usually like he carries her around like on his shoulders, like, and all of a sudden they got swept away into like these wastelands with like these people that are like a tribe of people that are essentially like with beetles, like they're like this bug kingdom, and he kind of infiltrates this kingdom, these people, along their journeys, and then from there, like, he has to like face off against one of them to like earn their respect, like fight them, and he like learns more about their society and their people, and they don't really respect him because he's from the outside world, and they feel like they look down on them, and there's a whole other kind of societal thing going on, and like they explore that a little bit. But the fun thing about this manga, other than all of that, because they slightly get into all that a little bit, but not really, it's not that deep. There's a lot of fucking fighting in this, and like he's basically like a wrestler, so there's wrestling in this with monsters. Like, he's essentially a big gladiator man beast of a man, like, who fucking like wrestles and fights like huge monsters. So like at the end of the day, that's what this volume of manga was basically about. Like, if you put aside all these other themes and world building stuff that they kind of introduced that they're not able to spend too much time on because it is just the one volume, they have all those interesting things going on in characters, but at the end of the day, it's really just like half the rest of the time in this, it's just him fucking wrestling big monster guys, and in this, he wrestles somebody in this that's like part of that tribe like bug people. He looks like a big like exoskeleton guy. Like his skin's like hardened by the fact that they've lived with these beetle people, so he looks like a man beetle type guy, like with armored skin of some sort. And he wrestles him, and he ends up giving him a fucking pile driver in this, and fucking basically puts him like it almost like a sharpshooter. And then like later on, like the beetle people have to like fight this huge fucking monster that comes, and then he transforms into like a huge monster. This Delos, this man, and like battles it, and it's awesome. It's basically like a kaiju kind of manga of sorts, because there is big giant monsters in it that he does fight, but like he's basically like a wrestler. So if you like wrestling, if you like kaiju stuff, if you like Kentaro Miura's fantastic looking art, if you like Berserk, definitely check this out. It's a single volume. I mean, you can't go wrong. Retails for $13.99 US. It's the Dark Horse volume, Giganto Maxia. And like I said, the only two complaints I had from reading this fun one-shot book was essentially I wish it was collected in a bigger size format to show off this glorious art even more. Like I said, like they're doing with the Berserk Deluxe editions right now through Dark Horse, so hopefully they consider doing that. And the fact that this is it. Like this is just the one volume that he's done. I don't know if he'll ever end up following up anything with this, right? But I think everybody would like him to finish Berserk, myself included at this point. So who knows, maybe in the future. But yeah, it's like a sci-fi fantasy epic grand adventure scale volume of fun and wrestling and fucking monster fighting. Yeah, I loved it. So next up we have A Silent Voice Volume 1. This is by Yoshitoki Oma. This is by Kodansha Comics. This has also been this was adapted. I guess I don't know if the manga came out first. You know, a lot of these things, they come out around the same time concurrently, or just like after the manga comes out. But there's an anime of this as well that's apparently very popular. It says it was a nominee for the Eisner Awards on the volume here from when I'm looking at it. I've heard about this book for a long time. And I always thought I'd be something that I'd be interested in checking out, but I just never pulled the trigger. This is a 7-volume manga series, so again, not a huge commitment. I've picked up the whole series now, so I plan on reading more. And I think with this one, I gotta say, like this was presented to me of like kind of like a slice of life kind of story about a kid that goes to school who's a huge fucking asshole to this deaf girl in his class, and then from there he learns like the way he was wrong in doing that, like treating her like that as he grows older and matures, and then he reconnects with her somewhere down the line, and then from there I actually don't know which direction this story is going to go, and that is basically what this first volume was. And I gotta say, like halfway through the volume, I wasn't sure if it was gonna hook me like I was hoping it did, but by the end of it I was like, okay, yeah, that was a satisfying first volume. I'm really looking forward to the second one, and it did give you that emotional kind of gut punch, and it made you feel almost bad for this piece of shit guy who is just a fucking piece of garbage. Like he's just the boy is Shoya, and Shoko is the girl who can't hear. Yeah, so he's just one of these guys that's looking for attention, and he just maybe doesn't understand the struggle and how hard it would be for this girl to make her way through school, being a deaf girl, and being misunderstood, and just the bullying that she basically had already went through prior to coming to this school, because she came in as a new student. So he's kind of like the class clown kind of shithead guy, and like he felt like I guess he found an opening, like a way to like, maybe think that people would like him more if he like made this girl feel like shit and like make fun of her, and the fact that he didn't understand about her being deaf. And then like it was one of those things where gradually, like towards the end of the volume, like it was one of those classic tables of being turned type scenario where everyone just starts hating on him, and then he kind of pays the price for it throughout the rest of his time in school or through high school afterwards, and the girl ends up moving away or I guess out of that school. She ends up leaving that school for the way that she was bullied, because she had like lost her mom had lost like thousands of dollars over hearing aids over the past like few months. And she just came to the conclusion that like she's being bullied once again. And this girl actually seems like she had like almost like a crush on him, or was trying to connect with him. And actually you find out all these things, these reveals, which I won't get into, of how she was actually trying to help his cause and the way that he was going to be treated moving forward as a result of him being so shitty, and obviously not realizing that he was being shitty and that people didn't really, see him the way he felt that others were perceiving him to be this whole time. So, it was really good, and I really need to read that second volume now, because like it just like at the end I'm just like, oh shit, like, I need to read this next one like right away. So don't be surprised if you hear me talk about the rest of the series once I do read that, because it's like a 7-volume thing. And yeah, these are just like your $10.99 retail mangas, and definitely check it out. I know there's a box set that collects all 7 as well. But if you can find these for a good price, definitely check it out. And like I said, it's been, or watch the anime, because I heard the anime is good as well. So it's one of those like, almost like slice of life coming of age type stories from what I've been told. And yeah, I really liked this first volume. It took a little bit, but by the end I was totally in. So next up we got Aposimz. This is volume 1. This is by Tsutomu Naihe. I'm sorry, I'm going to be butchering some of these names. He's the guy that basically does Blame, which I talked about on the show here, Knights of Sidonia. He's got a bunch. I basically have like every book collected in English I think he's brought out at this point. After I read Blame and talked about it on the show here, I went and tracked down a lot of his other stuff that he's done. I really like his art. This is a departure from like his art style that you would see in Blame and things like that, because like it's really messy and it's hard to tell what's going on, and inky, and I like that style. But this is basically like very thin line, detailed, simplistic looking art compared to everything he was putting down on the page in his art style in Blame. And I heard that this is more comparative to his stuff that he did for Knights of Sidonia art style, and in tone as well. But like all of his stuff, it feels like it takes place in like in the same type of world. It is like a post-apocalyptic wasteland type scenario. Like it felt like this one felt like Blame, because at the start they basically introduced the setup of this Aposimz, I believe, if not mistaken, is like some big like fallen like body, like some sort of like, it's hard to describe. So it says the artificial celestial body, Aposimz, measures 120,000 kilometers in diameter. Most of its volume is its core space, which is covered by a superstructural shell. And the people live in like how like Blame is like almost like this huge like tower structure of sorts. This is essentially what this is as well. And so it's like, yeah, some artificial fucking godlike body structure that they actually live on the outskirts of, these people. 50 centuries ago, the people who lost the war against the core lost the right to reside legitimately on Aposimz and were stranded on the frigid surface. They face rampant frame disease, which is essentially like a almost like a zombie-like kind of state of some sort. Again, some of the people that are fucking in Blame that are these people that live in this structure that are like that. And this other book too that I read, Biomega as well. So it feels very familiar with a lot of the other things that he's done. And aggressive automatons which appear frequently on the ruins level, yet even so somehow the people survive. So yeah, and that's basically what this is. There's like a team of people that are making their way through these like fucking barren wastelands, and there's there's protagonists and antagonists that are introduced in this, and it's kind of just following the journey of these people as they're trying to survive in their current like state of their world. And yeah, I mean, that's, if anything, that would be how I would sum up this first volume. They introduced all that. It felt like it was a little bit easier to follow than some of his other works, from what I've heard and the bit that I've read so far of the things that I own. But even so, sometimes some of the dialogue and setting and fast clip of things that move along and people that he introduces and stuff, I find it sometimes hard to follow. Like there's people that are basically like these frame disease people in this, but they're able to stay in a more normal state than others. Like there's ones that still have like some sense of their like and like way that they're able to operate, like in their mind, like they're almost like a regular person, but they're basically like an enhanced, like artificial being. Like it's almost like they turn into like some sort of like the frame thing is like they turn into like some sort of a mechanical robot, not robot, like zombie kind of thing. It's like some sort of a disease where it takes them over, and it puts them in like a zombie-like state. But I guess it's also like not just they're not artificial no more. Like they're not flesh and blood. They're basically, yeah, like more mechanical, if anything, I would probably say. But then these people that have some sort of like power set that are more normal, like they have the frame disease, but they're almost like they're like the ones that were spared. Like they're more enhanced. They're more able to not be mindless like zombies. They're the bad guys that are kind of after, like that are against them in this volume. So yeah, as I'm saying this, that's what I mean. I'm having some hard of a time here describing the book in that sense, but I feel that I always find it's easier just to go along with with the stuff that I've read of his so far, because it's more of about the experience itself and enjoying the artwork and seeing, you know, how things develop, at least from the thing, like I said, the stuff that I've read in Biomega and Blame of his. But comparative to that stuff, his art style, and that, this is a far departure, and I've heard some people say they don't like it. I wouldn't say I don't like it. It's different, and I prefer the other art style, but apparently he had changed it up, I had heard, because like either his daughter or his niece, I think it was his niece, somebody had said that they couldn't really understand, like they couldn't figure out some of the stuff that he drew in his other style, so he tried to change it up as he ended up drawing this book, I guess, as a result of the comments that they made, and maybe for a challenge for himself. I'm not sure, but apparently this is closer, at least, like I said, less detail, less ink on the page than like his Knights of Sidonia stuff, so, which I've seen. I would say it's even a little bit different than that, but I think it's definitely more in that vein. Next up, we got Fire Punch Volume 1. And Aposimz got 4 volumes out so far. It's still ongoing as far as I know, but that's all that's out so far. That's printed by Vertical. This is by Fire Punch. This is the Viz signature line. This is done. This is an 8-volume series, so again, not much of a commitment to read this. And I was on the fence about picking this up because I'd heard so many different things about it. Like, not that, just some people, if you're of the faint of heart, that certain themes or things that happen in books are distasteful to you, or you don't like dark things, or you don't like dark themed books, or you don't like like kind of balls to the wall fucking craziness, like trying to be edgy for edgy's sake type shit, maybe pass on this one, because this is a fucked up book. I'm just gonna mention, I'm not gonna go deep into it at this point, running a bit long, but I will say, and I would like to do a deeper dive when I read more volumes of this, because it's definitely deserved of it, at least from what I've read so far. I definitely like this volume quite a bit. This is by Tatsuki Fujimoto, who's doing another manga called Chainsaw Man right now, where he's got like chainsaws all over his fucking arms. So I don't, like, strapped on like chainsaw blades. That looks fucking crazy. By the third page of this, there's this guy who's basically getting his arm cut off for people to eat, like basically people to eat his flesh. So the first page, they explain the setup of, like, there's people that are born with special abilities that perform miracles. They're called the Blessed. that are in this world, and like this takes place in like some sort of futuristic setting where it's because of a blast called the Ice Witch that the whole world is basically encased in like some sort of frozen. It's basically like a frozen wasteland. It's covered in ice and snow, and people have a hard time surviving. Like it's some frozen post-apocalyptic kind of scenario setting of a start. Okay, so then that's on the first page. By the third page, you see this guy's sister cutting off his arm, which then it proceeds to grow back. Like, I guess he has this special ability where he has regenerative abilities, him and his sister. It proceeds to grow back, but then at that point they had already cut off like 7 of his arms and are proceeding to take these arms around the village that they live in with like these poor people that are finding hard to survive and find food in this new, setting, to basically feast upon. So they're taking the arms around to people's house who now have essentially became cannibals because they can't find food, and they're forced to eat this guy's flesh that's regenerative, and as a result they're able to cut off his arms and give it to people to feast on. Then later on you find this one man dead in his house they found, who said, oh yeah, that's he never really liked eating my flesh, so I guess he ended up passing in the night or whatever. And then from there they go back home, and the sister makes a stew out of his arm muscles. And then to feed him out of his arm muscles, he makes like a stew out of it. And then from there, it gets fucking crazier. Again, this is like within the first few pages. One chapter in, I was describing this book to my girlfriend after I read it, and there was like it moves at such a fast pace of fucked up craziness that it's not. There's no point in telling you everything. Like there's a brutal scene where somebody. A boy is trying to get some water, and this guy pisses in a cup and like to give to him, and the mother then proceeds to like just say, oh, okay, I'm just gonna wet his lips with it. This is the bad guy essentially, but like the whole thing about making someone drink his piss was messed up, and then. That's like I said, it's not for the weak of heart. There's a lot of fucked up themes in this. Like there's a scene where these guys try to rape his sister in this. Incest is mentioned as the sister tries to have sex with her brother almost to procreate in this. Basically everybody gets burned to a crisp. Like the whole town gets put up in flames by the end of this first chapter in the manga. And that's basically what it then becomes, is a revenge tale as this regenerative guy. His sister dies. She also has regenerative abilities, but like in her last dying breath, she somehow saves her brother, like passes this thing on to him, even more so for himself to survive. But then because he has regenerative abilities, he continuously just kind of is on fire for years. And then he's able to control this like state of him being like almost like the Human Torch, like enveloped in flames, and goes and tracks down this bad guy who basically killed all of their townspeople because they found it fucked up that they were like cannibals almost, and that there was a lot of dying and old and weak people there that he couldn't take any of them with them to their town to join their army. And then he ends up going and tracking him down and killing him because, like I said, he's like the Human Torch almost at this point, but like he's in like a constant state of pain as he regenerates. Like this guy that casts the flames on them, the flame won't go out until there's like nothing there. So as a result of it backfire with his regenerative abilities, like it just continues to go, right? So he just becomes like this big, like essentially this fire being, right? Hence the name Fire Punch. And he goes and fucking and is tracking down these guys for revenge in this. That basically becomes like the theme of this first volume, right? So, and I guess the ongoing story will go from there. But a lot of fucked up things happen in this, man. This is again, it almost feels like it's being edgy for edgy's sake at some points. There are a lot of dark themes in it, so it's not as tasteful as some other stuff, but I thought the writing was good. The art was good. And I look forward to the next volume just because it's so weird and fucked up and different. And definitely if you're looking for more things to cheer you up during this time period with everything going on in the world, maybe skip this, but I quite enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the next volume that I read. And last off, Ikagami, The Ultimate Limit. This is volume 1. This is a 10 volume manga. So once again, another one that's not a huge undertaking. This is the longest manga, other than the ongoing Aposimz, and which had Atelier, which I don't know how many volumes that's going to be when it's all said and done, that I talked about today. But like they said, like 10 was the most. Fire Punch was 8, Ikagami 10, Silent Voice 7, Giganto Maxia was only 1 volume at this point. So a lot of smaller series that you guys could check out. And if these first volumes are any indication, then I hope they continue to be just as enjoyable. I also liked this. This is written and drawn by Motoro Mace. This is again the Viz signature line book. I heard this was one of these books that's really good, and it doesn't get talked about enough for whatever reason. And I'll just give you the premise, because that's what drew me in. The premise alone is interesting. Basically, these kids. The government, like I guess when they're 6, like all the kids in their society, they inject them with this thing, and it's something that basically, like between the ages of 18 and I think it's like 24, that they randomly are selected to come up as like some sort of thing inside of them. The capsule explodes and goes straight to their heart, and they have like a heart attack as a result, like it blows up. And this happens within 24 hours. So the government, they randomly select these people, like a bunch of them, like 1 out of every 1,000 kids or something, I think, like that. And it helps level out their society in the sense that people appreciate life more. Like, so they don't go through their lives like wasting their life, essentially, almost, it seems like. So as a result, this Ikagami, I think, is the name of the thing that you get that notifies you that you're about to die within 24 hours. But so there's this whole government agency set up of agents that have to do this as their job. Like, and we follow our main character in this as he has to deliver this Ikagami to 2 different people within this first volume. So that was the other thing about the series that I've heard. It's episodic in nature. So like, although there is a through line, it's one of those things where like other than like the first volume and maybe the last volume, the other ones are all kind of random stories, I guess, in each one. And in this, you had 2 different stories about 2 different individuals, and I'm sure that's how every subsequent volume is going to be too, the setup. And for some, I know that's not their favorite kind of thing, but I heard there is an interesting through line and different self-examinations of different type of people throughout this series, and I think that's where the interesting part of this series is going to come through. But even in this first volume, like the agent, because he's a newly assigned agent and he just got this job and he's learning about everything about the Ikagamis and about the government and the way they operate and how they choose people randomly, and just like, I guess, the morality of it, like whether it's right or wrong what he's doing, and how he sees it, and how the people that get issued these basically death warrants see it, and how it changes their lives and the decisions that they make in light of knowing that they're going to die within 24 hours. So that's basically, and that's how this one was. I mean, in one of them, you get somebody who was basically bullied all his life. He thought it ruined his life, and to the point where in this, he seeks out revenge. Because he finds out he's going to die within 24 hours, he wants to go and track down all the people that wronged him and get them back before he dies. And then by the end of it, he's just like, well, this was pointless. This isn't going to change anything. I'm just going to die now. And you know what I mean? Like, I need to change someone's life. I need to let somebody know. And then he encounters somebody who was also getting bullied at his school, and came across this kid who just got the shit beaten out of him. And he tells him, he's like, address this now. Don't let it ruin your life like it did mine. Like, and as a result, he was able to change that kid's life, right? But he kind of went out like being a slacker guy who, again, like who wasted the rest of his days because he couldn't get over the traumatic shit that happened to him when he was in school. So it's like a topic, with bullying and stuff that a lot of people, these days know about and deal with, and that kind of thing. So that was very interesting to me. And then the second one was about, about somebody who was trying to who was a struggling magician with some a struggling musician with their friend, and then they got the opportunity to make it big and abandon their ideals and their whole vision of them becoming, sticking it out and trying to do it together to blow up. At least they felt that was what they were trying to do, and that failed. And in their last day, they kind of did some self-reflection about the decision they made by doing that, and tried to make it up to the other bandmate that he abandoned years ago, right, by playing their song on his first big break on this live television broadcast, right? And as a result, maybe kind of made things right before he died, right? So that's it. That's basically it in a nutshell. It's going to be this book, self-examining these people and their choices in their last 24 hours, what they choose to do with it. But in this first volume, it also had all of the interesting setup, explaining you why the government does this, how they choose to issue out these things, and the agency and how that works, and all of that. So I really felt this first volume was really interesting, and based on the premise alone, I really enjoyed it. So definitely check it out. Check any of these out. I pretty much liked everything I talked about here. I have all the volumes for these other books that I talked about, these smaller series, which I will be reading at some point and talking about on the show. So we'll see how I feel about it once I get to that point as well. All right. So once again, stay safe, everybody out there, and I'll catch you guys next time.